Hello, Star Trek fans, and welcome to the Rebinge Deep Space Nine podcast. My name is Kim.
And my name is James.
And we're watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine from the beginning, one episode at a time. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are on Season 7, Episode 4, Take Me Out to the Holosuite. This episode aired October 21st, 1998. Before we talk about this one, anything to say about last week's episode where Ezri first wandered around the station?
That's an interesting description of the episode.
I can't remember the name. After Image?
Yes. It was good. I like the introduction to Ezri. I think she will become a great character, although I know she becomes a great character.
Oh.
I really liked her.
All right. Very good. Well, we finally reached the baseball episode.
Yes.
Which I guess I've known about because I've seen little clips of it, but I always assumed this happened right away because we introduced baseball in episode 1.
Oh, yeah.
But it's taken us the entire show to get to this episode.
In some of the trivia I was reading about this episode, it is apparently based on an episode of Fame.
Yeah, I saw that somewhere too. I think I read that the Fame episode was written by Ira Bear.
That's quite a leap of different shows.
Yeah, I had no idea he wrote for Fame. I watched Fame. I don't remember the baseball episode, but it was also a long time ago, and I certainly never watched it a second time, so it's gone out of my memory. Well, I guess that's all we have to say, so maybe we should get started.
It is my turn this week, so we start in Sisko's office, and he is receiving a Vulcan captain called Solok of the Tacumbra.
And you know immediately he doesn't like him. As soon as Kira says his name, he's like, ugh, this guy.
They've met before, and Solok tells Sisko it's been 10 years, 2 months, and 5 days since they last met. And yes, this guy does seem a little frosty even for a Vulcan. Sisko brings up his winning the Chris Pike medal, and Solok points out that he received his second last month.
Yeah, this guy is a joy.
Here's the thing with Vulcans. They're not supposed to show emotion, but this guy could not be any more smug.
Yeah.
He's giving off Vorta level smug.
Yeah, he is exceedingly smug and just full of himself and obnoxious. And he clearly takes pleasure in being obnoxious to Sisko and maybe to all humans.
Yeah.
So baloney that he doesn't have any emotions.
Right. Well, he's there to get his ship repaired, and it's going to take a couple of weeks. And he wishes to use the Holosuite, as he's made a game based off a human Earth game, but we don't yet learn what it is. We cut to Sisko telling Kira to assemble the senior staff. We immediately go to the wardroom, and Sisko is telling them that Captain Solok has challenged his staff to a game of skill, courage, and sacrifice, and Sisko's volunteered all of them. Worf is immediately on board, announcing, "We will destroy them."
Absolutely.
Kira asks, "What is the contest?" And a beaming Sisko says, "Baseball," and into the opening credits.
I feel like we get such a good example here of the racism of Vulcans. You know what I mean? He just, this guy just seems to hate everybody who's not a Vulcan, and he's very open about it, and he's terrible. And I don't understand why Vulcans, why they all have to have, it's like the Romulans, why do they all have to have the same haircut? Ugly haircuts are illogical.
In response to your query there, which, let's be honest, seemed like an emotional response based on your perceived like or dislike for a haircut, the style of the haircut is irrelevant as long as it is functional.
No, if it makes you look ridiculous. Or if you all look the same. Or I would argue, why do you even need hair? What's the logic of that? Sisko's got the logical haircut.
I'm trying to formulate a response and we'll fall back on, what do you know?
Oh, the argument of my mother.
That's a really good point. If they are that logical, then surely it would make more sense to just keep your head shaven.
Yeah, I would think so. Did you question why, when we assembled the senior staff, that included Ensign Nog? Are there no more senior members of Starfleet on the station than the ensign?
No, this is it. These are all the people that they can possibly pick up.
I mean, I understand why he's there. He's a member of the main cast, but anyway.
After the credits, Kira, Nog, and Worf are reading the rules of baseball, and Worf is describing the terms used in the rules, as it seems to be confusing all of them.
Yeah. They're in ops having this conversation, and they have a baseball diamond like displayed right on the main console. It
Yes.
looks like an arcade machine right in the middle of the work area. And I kept thinking that this feels like quite a distraction from work and, the war that's going on.
Oh, yeah, that seems kind of important. No.
No, we're not worried about that.
Right.
I did think, too, that the infield fly rule is quite a detail when you're just trying to learn the game. I'd be more concerned with trying to learn to hit, catch, and throw.
Yeah.
They should all get like a hologram coach to help them with their technical skills rather than reading about the infield fly rule, which is even unlikely to come up during the game.
Surely you just want to get them out on the field and start just playing and explaining what the ideas are and actually do like a walkthrough and do much more of like an interactive way. Like when you learned these games when you were a kid, like at school.
Yeah, because the basic rules of baseball are very easy. Go stand out there and try it a few times, and then you can talk about the details.
Right. And the only person who really needs to know the rules, I would say absolutely in details, would be the umpire.
Well, it helps you as a player to know them. But...
Well, yeah,
But some of the finer details of it should be the second thing you look at rather than, starting. Let's start with skills.
Yeah, it's like you don't start playing football by teaching the offside rule.
Yeah, Ted Lasso still doesn't know it. We're in season 3.
In Quark's bar, Julian, Ezri, and Miles are basically doing the same thing and trying to learn the game. And there's some amusement around the term Fancy Dan, which Ezri brings up. And Bashir says, "Oh, that you're making it up."
I mean, it's not a term that I was familiar with, and I've watched baseball my entire life. So I looked it up, and it's actually a general term, not specific to baseball. It comes from the 30s, I believe, or the 40s. I don't remember. But I guess they just needed a term to use later.
Well, Lita and Rom also come to volunteer to try out to play in the game. Rom has discovered that Sisko and Jake use the game to get closer to each other.
Oh.
And as he hasn't seen Nog for a while, he thinks this would be a good idea. And Lita wanted to join them to make it a whole family thing.
That's very cute.
Yeah, this was really cute. And I like the way they portray Lita and Rom. This feels like a much more positive relationship.
Agreed. And also, Lita's hair looks great in this scene.
Oh, yeah.
And Quark is his usual helpful self.
Quark never misses an opportunity to mock Nog. Lita defends him, saying Quark couldn't play because the game takes heart. And Quark sold his heart a long time ago.
Burn.
After they leave, Quark asks, when do the tryouts start? Do you think this is that Quark trait of fear of missing out?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because I was wondering whether it was that or he was worried about Rom doing something that Quark wasn't involved in. Sort of Rom having one up on him.
Yeah.
A lot of Quark's motivations, I think, stem from the childhood trauma of Rom always being Moogie's favorite.
Okay.
Maybe Ezri could help him with that.
Oh, maybe.
We go to the Holosuite, and an extremely excited Ben Sisko is meeting with the team and introduces Jake as their pitcher, or as he calls him, Jake the Slider Sisko.
Jake has a Braves hat on in this scene, and Sisko is wearing a San Francisco Giants hat.
Yep. Sisko delivers a great speech about how the Vulcans lack heart and how they're going to beat them. And we go into a long scene of throwing and catching. However, all of it with limited success.
Rom even has his glove on the wrong hand.
Yes.
It's very funny.
And we close with Sisko telling Jake he's going to lose to Solok.
The Vulcans' team name is the Logicians.
That's a good name.
Which I only understood from the closed captions. Otherwise, I would have assumed it was the Magicians, which I thought was a pretty fancy name for Vulcans. In this scene, Sisko says baseball is about courage, faith, and heart. I'm not sure about that. I mean, I agree with the heart, but I think I'd say it's about hand-eye coordination and teamwork, and then maybe heart.
And money. Lots of money.
I was going to say, and if you watch it on TV, it's also about spitting.
That is an important part. That is something that you really get to appreciate in high def.
I mean, I was going to say, I've watched baseball my whole life, and I thought that high def was going to be a great improvement for watching baseball in all sports. But it turns out now you just get to see a lot of really gross stuff in gory detail. But, high def.
Baseball was one of those sports that when high def TVs first started really appearing, and we got our first high def TV, and you're watching baseball, and I don't even think it was 1080p then. And just watching that screen and how much detail you could see compared to watching baseball on a standard def, it was like night and day.
Yeah, the first high definition TV that we had, we actually won from the Padres, remember?
Yep.
When we were at the new stadium, they were giving away all these high def TVs and we won one. And so you can definitely see more detail of the game, but maybe what was so striking was you could start to see the crowds.
Yeah.
Like you could make out detail of the people in the stands. For me, baseball, yes, that was an improvement, but the biggest sport improvement in watching was tennis.
Oh,
I used to watch tennis on these tiny, horrible tube TVs. You couldn't even see the ball.
Right.
And yeah, I really like on modern televisions. It's just, it's almost, in many ways, it's better than being there.
Getting back to the episode. After the ad break, Sisko now recruits Odo as the umpire, telling him that he's impartial and there's no one he'd trust more. And I think that's a great idea. Odo loves following rules, and he's going to ensure they are followed fairly.
Yes, I agree with that, but also Odo could have been a really great player for you. He'd never miss a ball. He could just morph to where the ball is and catch it.
That's a good point. Stretch his hand out 3 feet extra and just catch the ball.
Exactly. And then you could just use holograms as umpires, and then you could have more than one, because really, you need a couple more umpires out there to watch the bases. Because Odo never moves. He stays behind home plate where...
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. How do you know if the guy in second was safe? You got to move.
Well, after Odo agrees, Sisko heads off to the infirmary, as there were some problems at practice today. In the infirmary, Esri is describing her situation as if she doesn't know her own body anymore, because Emily, a previous host, was an athlete, and she remembers making these moves, but her legs don't work the same way.
Yeah, that would be confusing.
Yeah, I thought that was another really interesting part of this character of Esri. She's trying to use these memories and not having the same effects because her physicality is different. That is so weird.
Are there no other humans on the station? I mean, the Vulcan's gripe is about humans.
Yeah.
So what are we really proving by having 3 humans on this team? I mean, 3.5, I guess, if you count Julian's abilities. It starts as 5, but then Miles gets injured, and then Sisko gets thrown out at one point. So it's down to 3. So, I mean, what are the Vulcans even proving?
And I wouldn't honestly count Julian because of the genetic enhancement.
Well, that's what I mean. I'd count him as 1.5.
Oh, I wouldn't even count him.
I get what you're saying.
Okay, that's funny.
Yeah.
Very good point. You got 2 Bajorans, 2 Ferengi, a Vulcan.
A Klingon.
Exactly. And a clone of Khan.
Mm-hmm.
We also learn that Quark managed to break some bones in the back of his head. And also that Rom learned to look behind you before swinging a bat, as he caused it.
Yeah, let's keep that in mind. Bats are dangerous.
Yeah.
Which is why you're supposed to wear helmets.
That would be a pretty big helmet for a Ferengi.
There are a few times where I thought the hats were so funny because of the size of the Ferengi head.
Yeah. Well, Julian announces that Miles has torn a rotator cuff and is out. He is not in a position to play. And even Worf is injured. And as Bashir goes to attend to him, Rom calls out, "Tell him I'm sorry."
I wonder why they did that in making of the show. I wonder why they didn't want Cole Meany to play.
Oh, I guess just to make it more exciting. Make it a little bit more of a underdog team.
I mean, I would imagine, well, with the number of times he's injured that shoulder, it probably was hard for the character to throw.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. But they've all basically been injuring themselves. Even Kira was like wringing her hand as if she'd hurt her wrist.
Yeah. Sisko says practice is at 7:30 the next morning, which is absolutely cruel. I don't think I could play sports at 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah, there's no chance from me.
Yeah, not a team sport for sure. You're cranky. It's 7:30 in the morning.
Need my coffee. We now go to an outside shot of the station and a docked Bajoran ship where Sisko is waiting in an airlock with flowers. And he's waiting for Cassidy. He tells her he's missed her like a piece of his heart was missing.
Oh.
And I thought that was the second really sweet thing in this episode. He really does seem to like Cassidy.
Well, this is the kind of boyfriend he should be, rather than the one he's been a few times.
Yes. Yeah, this was a nice recovery from that episode.
Well, I feel like we almost forget that half of the time that we see Sisko interacting with Cassidy, he's this, and the other half of the time, he's that. He's that sort of childish person and not a great boyfriend. And when you're in that relationship, you know that 100% of the time. So I don't know. He should be like this more frequently.
Right. Well, Cassidy is going to be back on the station for a couple of weeks because she doesn't have anything else scheduled. She has no cargo runs and blames it on, it's something that the bureaucrats do. Meanwhile, I think all the rest of us know that Sisko has pulled some strings to have her cargo runs reassigned, because in the next scene, into the Holosuite we go, and we see Cassidy in uniform on third base.
Yep, she's pretty good, too.
We also find in the outfield, Rom can't catch to save his life, and tragically also can't throw either. They do a funny little scene here where he picks up the ball, throws it, and only manages to get it about 6 feet, and then has to run after the ball and pick it up again.
And throw it again.
Yeah.
And then run after the ball. It almost would have been faster if he'd just run it in.
Yeah, walked it there, I think.
Yeah.
Some more humor at Rom's expense. And to make matters worse for Sisko, Captain Solok is in the stands watching.
Why would you allow that? I wouldn't allow scouting.
I feel there's also maybe a little overconfidence from Sisko. I think that is another little bit of this theme of Sisko was like sure he could win. So he's being maybe a little bit cocky.
Maybe. I mentioned the hats before, and Sisko is wearing a Giants hat, and it turned out to be sort of funny because he seemed to be channeling Dusty Baker, who I believe was the coach of the Giants at this time.
Oh.
And in particular, there's a scene where Sisko has a toothpick in his mouth, which is very Dusty Baker. So I thought that was cute. And then also Jake wearing a Braves hat, his uncle is Kenny Lofton, and Kenny Lofton played for the Braves only one season, but I think it was right around this time, maybe the year before or the season before this episode aired, which is, that's really cool. That's a cool detail, but I'm still stung that they traded David Justice for that guy. But that's another story.
Oh, yes, you're a longtime Braves fan.
Yeah, I'll just let it go for this.
Well, Sisko is also jumping the gun a little and counting his chickens as he says, next week, that man is going to get a painful lesson in humility. Oh, dear.
I don't know why he thinks that. There's very little talent in front of him.
Yeah.
Did you see the scene where Jake is pitching and they show him from the front and it's Jake, and then they show him from the back and it is clearly not Jake doing the pitching?
Yes.
It's some much bigger guy.
Which is pretty scary. That's a bigger guy than Jake, because he is not a small fella. We now have Rom at the plate and he's trying to bat, and we discover he cannot hit either, even letting go at the bat at one point, causing Jake to duck. Sisko, who is taking things way too seriously at this point, finally cuts Rom from the team.
Yeah, he's harsh.
Yeah.
I mean, Rom is terrible, but still.
Yeah. In Quark's bar, Lita and Nog are commiserating with Rom and say they won't play if Rom doesn't play. And then the rest of the team comes in support and say, if Rom doesn't play, they won't play. Rom is a good sport and tells them that he doesn't want them to do that. He recognizes he's not very good and says he'll just be happy if he can watch them beat the Vulcans from the stands. I think he is being a good guy here.
Oh, yeah, Rom is a very good guy. But he also just undersells himself and undervalues himself.
Oh, very much so. We get another short, funny scene as Mars has discovered gum and explains it to Julian, and how gum can be flavored. And he's chosen the flavor of Scotch.
Yeah.
Why would gum die out?
Because it's gross.
Oh, evolved humans don't like gum. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just bad. Bad for your jaw, gives you TMJ. I don't know. But Scotch-flavored gum would be revolting.
It would not be good, no. We have a montage of the team training and trying to actually get good at playing baseball, and a short scene of Kira being amused watching Odo in his office practicing being an umpire and calling, out!
Yeah, you gotta have a flourish.
Odo is definitely getting into it, yes. It's the night before the game, and Sisko is getting batting advice from Cassidy, and he's annoyed because basically nothing is going his way. Cassidy is pretty smart and knows there's something behind this. And she tells Ben, so, do I get to hear the Solok story now? And we learn the rivalry goes all the way back to the Academy, where, in a bar, Solok and Sisko get into a dispute, with Solok describing Vulcans as naturally superior to humans and other emotionally handicapped species. A drunk Sisko challenges Solok to a wrestling match. Cassidy asks, and? Sisko continues. He ended up with a separated shoulder, 2 cracked ribs, and a very bruised ego.
Oh, geez.
Cassidy just laughs. In that way, women often do, when you tell them a story of something really stupid you did as a young man. Either to impress a girl, or to impress your friends. And I feel I speak from experience here.
I can't relate to what makes teenage boys do what teenage boys do. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. So basically, this Vulcan has made it his life's work to prove that humans are emotional and not as physically strong as Vulcans.
Yes.
I mean, everybody already knows that, so what are you doing? You're just being a jerk.
Yeah, definitely.
And getting satisfaction from beating a group of people who've never played a sport before, it feels like a very hollow victory. I know I wouldn't enjoy it. I just don't understand what is going on here. This guy, he's just a jerk.
Back to the scene, and Sisko explains how it didn't end there with the wrestling. Solok went on to write 5 psychology papers about the match and why Vulcans are inherently superior to humans.
This guy.
Sisko describes it as gloating, as he's now written over a dozen papers and brings up the match at the start of every one.
Unbelievable.
Cassidy tells him he should tell his teammates. They need to know how personal this whole thing is to Sisko. He refuses and asks her to promise not to tell the others.
Well, I'd like to do a little bit of leadership corner here.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying that it's bad leadership to keep stuff to yourself, because you're allowed to do that. But what I will say is that you can improve team bonding and improve the loyalty of the team by opening up. So when your team sees that you're human and vulnerable, it can really enhance the bond that you've built with them. But I get that's not for everyone and it's not for everything. I'm just saying it really can work.
Yeah. We cut right into the next scene, and Cassidy is saying, "He made me promise not to tell you." Well, she's spilled the beans to all of them.
Yeah, I really laughed out loud at that.
Yeah.
She's like, yes, I won't tell. And then in the next breath, she's saying, okay, here's what happened.
Well, and their reaction kind of ties back to what you said. Of they don't laugh at Sisko. They're genuinely supportive of him.
Well, up till this point, they don't understand why Sisko's behaving the way that he is.
Yes.
They don't understand that it's important. They don't understand that he really wants to win, or I guess why he really wants to win. It's just for fun for them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, why wouldn't you tell them?
Yeah, because they're all on board to win the game after this. So very much Cassidy made the right decision there.
She definitely did. But I would also say at this point, you should be making a plan. More than just, we really want to win now. You need a strategy.
Yeah.
Because the other team is physically superior and they've also got more experience. Yeah. I feel like you need to figure out some gamesmanship or something, get creative, something that you can do to try to get an advantage. I'm not saying cheat, but something.
No.
Or cheat, I don't know, but something colorful. You got to give yourself a chance.
Yeah, get Garrick on it.
Oh, yeah. That would have been a good idea, although he might have poisoned all the other players or something.
All the Vulcans came down with a rare Vulcan flu all of a sudden before the game.
Yeah.
In this scene as well, I did like how Ezri says, Curzon and Jadzia wondered why he hated Solok, but he would never talk about it.
Yeah, you should have told people.
I kind of like how Ezri seems much more willing to bring up references to the memories of her previous hosts. Not just generically say, in 900 lifetimes, I've whatever. She's actually bringing up these sort of real experiences. And
yeah, that is different.
I like the reworking of the trill here. After another ad break, it's the day of the game, and the crew are all out in their Niners uniforms, and there's a big Holo crowd. And Rom is there in the stands as well.
The uniforms are great, and the hats.
Yes.
Totally cool.
Sisko asks for the crowd to be turned off, which Solok does, and just leaves Rom as the only spectator. The first batter is up, and the Niners start calling, "Hey, batter." And Worf, being a Klingon, goes straight to, "Death to the opposition."
Oh, that's great. That was funny.
Jake throws the first pitch, and it's a home run.
Yeah, we're off to a great start.
And we cut to the scoreboard and watch as in the first innings, the Vulcans score 4 runs.
The Vulcan bench is something that they show a couple of times, and they're not even having fun. So it just really shows you that the captain only wants to do this to gloat. It's not like anybody is enjoying this.
Yeah, it's not a fun thing.
And it's not even great exercise, really. So, I mean, come on. And also, why is it 100% Vulcan? This is a Starfleet captain on a Starfleet ship, but there's only Vulcans on it. Why would they allow it to be all one race?
Right. Well, in the trivia notes I was reading for this episode, there was a mention that there was a Starfleet ship with a Vulcan-only crew in the past. I think it was in the original series, but it was destroyed. So I think from a canon perspective, it's not the first time it's happened.
I'm not disputing that from a canon perspective. Maybe it had happened before. I guess what I'm wondering is why would Starfleet accept this?
Oh, yeah.
The Starfleet that we know, because this feels just very racist to only allow one race onto onto the ship.
Do you want to go into overanalysis now?
Okay.
This whole thing is a huge problem for Starfleet.
Yeah.
The Vulcans, this is as you say, this is just racism. You're saying that these other races, because of emotions, are lesser?
Yeah, and to allow him as a Starfleet captain to be publishing papers saying, oh, we're superior. It's just like, why? What are you getting out of this? Nothing. All you're doing is breeding contempt.
Right.
It's a very negative thing.
Yeah. I feel that the last thing you'd want to do if you have a group of people where you're dealing with a supremacist issue is put together a ship full of supremacists.
Yeah, I don't like it.
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
I don't think Starfleet would allow it. Yeah. I guess it's a Starfleet admiral who's a Vulcan who allowed it.
Oh, racist Starfleet admiral.
Yeah.
Does this apply to their opinion of Bajorans, to Trill, to all the other races?
Apparently.
Yeah. We have to also address at this point, this is, I think, is another Discovery nod back at Deep Space Nine. Remember in Discovery, Season 2, there were logic extremists.
Oh, yeah.
There were Vulcans who effectively had this superiority complex.
Yeah.
And they almost killed Sarek. So I think from a Starfleet perspective, you would really want to fight that kind of attitude. I mean, look at Odo. His view of the world is he treats everyone equally, even though he is quite literally physically superior to pretty much everybody on that station.
And the Vulcans.
And the Vulcans, yeah. So, yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's a very negative view on why that wouldn't be stomped on. And I guess it's the same thing as having, like, the Starfleet Youth and Red Squad. These are things you don't want to encourage.
Yeah.
Well, the first inning is done, and in the dugout, Sisko is being... best way of describing it is belligerent as the coach.
Yeah.
And we very quickly see Bashir, Kira, and Worf all getting struck out.
Why would Julian ever miss the ball?
This is more overanalysis.
Sorry, I'm taking all your overanalysis points. He missed by 2 feet. Completely ridiculous.
Very good point. Back to the scoreboard, and it's now the top of the 5th, and the Vulcans are leading by 7 runs. And we see that the Vulcans are playing a little bit hard, as one of the players slides into second and knocks Kira down and almost starts a fight. In the dugout, Bashir observes and says, "It's not very sporting." The Vulcans are playing a little bit hard. I mean, against a team that isn't that great.
Yeah, you're winning by 10 runs. I don't know why you're knocking down the second baseman.
Yeah. It would be like putting the Braves against a high school team and having the Braves high-fiving each other when they score a home run.
Yeah, or a little league team.
It'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could also say it's illogical to take it easy on them and to always just play
to the best of your
at your
ability,
highest level. Yeah.
Kira's again up at bat and manages to get a hit, and there is much cheering. Worf comes up to bat, and they play up the drama as he gets to 3 balls and 2 strikes, and Odo calls the final pitch a strike, which enrages Worf, and Sisko runs out to argue with Odo.
Yep.
Well, Sisko crosses the line and prods Odo, who shouts, "You're out of here," in a perfect baseball style, and quotes the rules at Sisko. No player may make contact with the umpire. And also in the trivia, apparently he quotes the correct rule in the rulebook.
I mean, I grew up watching the coach who got thrown out more than any other coach in history, so I'm used to that.
Bobby Cox?
Yeah.
Sisko's insults to Odo made me laugh as well. When he said to him, "What are you looking at? What were you doing? Regenerating?"
Yeah, that was super funny. A very good baseball insult.
Oh, yeah. But at the end of the day, you really don't want to argue with Odo.
No.
So Sisko is thrown out of the game and into the ad break.
And you can't argue balls and strikes anyway, so you would have gotten thrown out. Although, wait, you could in 98, so yeah, you can't now.
So with Sisko ejected, Miles is now in charge, and we go back to the game. And a Vulcan hits a really long ball. It's going very deep, and it's almost a home run, but Ezri well, at least Esri's stunt double,
Yes, definitely.
jumps up the outer wall, catches the ball, and does a backflip to land. Very nice touch.
Yep.
And I will say, they did find a stunt double who looked about the same size as Esri.
Yeah.
And Julian is very impressed by Esri actually pulling the Fancy Dan move.
Yeah, that was definitely a Fancy Dan move.
Back to the scoreboard, and we're now at the top of the 9th, and the Vulcans lead by 10 runs. At least the Niners have 5 hits.
And 4 or 5 errors.
I think it was
can't
4
remember.
errors. Yeah.
I'm surprised they had that few,
Yep.
considering how little experience they had.
Well, the Vulcan batter gets a hit, and the ball is thrown back to Nog, who's the catcher. Another Vulcan is running to home plate, but doesn't touch the plate. And at the same time, Nog doesn't tag the runner, so he's not out. Nog has no idea what to do and stands asking, "What do I do?"
And Odo doesn't help him. He just knows that nothing has happened. Yeah.
Worf helpfully replies, "Find him and kill him."
Worf, so consistent.
Yes. Miles tells him, "Tag him out." And Nog runs to the dugout, but can't tell which one of the Vulcans it is. So starts tagging all of them.
Yeah, but he tags it and then looks back. It's like, just run down the line and touch them all.
Well, the last Vulcan suddenly makes a dash for the plate, but Nog throws back to Jake, who's covering home, and tags him out. There is cheering from the Niners, and this is the point the mood actually seems to lift.
Yeah. I'm not sure of the rule there, because once you get that far from home, I mean, I've seen this happen where the player has missed home plate and then they do like a dance with the catcher to try to touch home. I've seen that. But when you go all the way back to the dugout and sit down, you're so far out of the baseline.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would make you out or not. But the other thing is, the Vulcans, every single time they would come back from batting, they would go to the end of the bench and sit on the end of the bench. That was their process. So Nog should have known, just go tag the last guy. It's obviously the last guy. Instead, they sort of play this silly thing where they all look the same or something.
Well, this is funny because I feel this is reminiscent of like the old Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yeah, it was a little Looney Tunes, yeah.
Where Bugs Bunny was playing baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another one as well, and Merry Melodies, where there was a baseball game, I think. It felt very much like that.
Yeah, but they're very happy to throw him out.
This, I feel, is where the mood of the game changes. Where the Niners,
for sure.
It lifts at this point. Because even in the stands, Sisko, who's been in this very dark mood the whole game, also seems to have sort of, if you like, gotten to the spirit of it. He started to actually enjoy it rather than obsessing about it.
Yeah, he's kind of laughing now in the stands. Yeah. And this is where he's got the toothpick too. So this is where he's really got Dusty Baker going.
Well, Sisko in the stands tells Nog, "This is what's so great about the game." And Rom replies, "It does seem like a lot of fun." Sisko tells Rom to follow him, and they leave the stands. And we cut to Sisko telling Miles to call a timeout and make a substitution. And we see Sisko has put Rom into the game.
Yeah, Rom comes out in a full uniform now.
Rom's up to bat, and Lita encourages him, saying, "You can do it." Meanwhile, Nog is on second base. As Rom goes up to the plate, Sisko turns the crowd back on, and the announcer. So Rom's standing on the plate as the crowd is all cheering as he's getting ready to bat. That was really kind of nice.
Yeah.
We get a big build-up as he gets strike one and strike two, and Rom is displaying all the complete lack of skill that we saw earlier.
There's this swing and a miss and fall down
Yes.
because he swings so hard. I would think that would hurt.
Yep.
It looks like he fell on his shoulder.
And then you told me the irony is Matt Grodenchik is the only one who actually played baseball.
Yes, I read that, and I heard it on a podcast that I listened to as well, that he was the one with the most experience and probably the most skill as a player. And so they had him, just to make it look like he was bad, they had him batting and throwing left-handed, even though he's a righty. So I don't know that I ever could have turned around and batted from the other side, but yes, he was playing as a lefty, and he did manage to look like he was completely inept.
In the dugout, Miles remembers the concept of a bunt, and they're all trying to give Rom the sign for making a bunt. Meanwhile, Rom is standing at the plate trying to figure out what they mean, and the Vulcan pitcher pitches to him. By happenstance, the ball actually hits Rom's bat and rolls fair. Rom runs for first base as Nog runs for home, and he slides in with a very emphatic Odo shouting, "Safe!"
Yeah, he does a head-first slide.
Yep. Well, the Niners have scored and all the teams start cheering.
They run onto the field.
Yes, everyone runs out onto the field cheering and hug Rom.
And pick him up. The women pick him up.
Solok goes out to Odo, telling him, this is improper. The game is not over. And he touches Odo.
He grabs his shoulder.
Yes.
Yep.
And a grinning Odo shouts, you're gone, and throws Solok out too. Odo is clearly enjoying this.
I really liked how they were so excited to have scored a run. It didn't matter. Nothing else in the game mattered.
Yep.
And they just swarm the field and they pick up Rom. And it's just like, this is the greatest moment of the game. It's very funny.
And the game closes with the Niners carrying Nog off the field while everyone is laughing and seems generally very happy.
You know, if they were really trying to do a suicide squeeze, you have to also tell the runner on third about it.
Yeah.
Not just the batter. And they could have just called time and walked out there and told him to bunt. Although he didn't know what the bunt was anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered.
Right.
Yeah, it was a good ending to the game. It was quite funny.
Yes. Oh, definitely. In Quarks, Sisko tells Jake that was one hell of a game, and Sisko also apologizes to Rom, shaking his hand and saying sorry. I rather like that.
Yeah.
I think Sisko finally realized that he was being a little over the top.
Yes.
Solok now approaches Sisko and says, I fail to see why you are celebrating. The bunt was an accident, and you still lost the game. Sisko tells him, and I couldn't be happier,
guy.
and orders a round of drinks for the house. Solok now seems to be getting irritated and says, you are attempting to manufacture a triumph where none exists. Cassidy shouts, I'd say he succeeded. And Bashir calls a toast to manufactured triumph.
Why not? You gotta find the positives.
Yep. Solok responds saying, this is a typical human reaction based on emotionalism and illogic. Well, they start mocking Solok a little, saying that he seems irritated and emotional, and he replies with, he will not engage in this human game of taunting. Ezri continues to pick on him by saying, human, did I forget to wear my spots today?
Yeah. And also, he started the game of taunting.
Yes. Yes, Solok definitely seems to be getting irritated by this. He is
for sure.
Definitely not hiding his displeasure or discomfort at this.
Yeah.
Kira then throws a baseball to Sisko, which they've all signed.
Oh my god, that was so cute.
And then Sisko turns to Solok and asks, would you like to sign it? He doesn't respond and kind of flounces away. Everyone else is in good spirits and laughing. Sisko smiles and tosses the baseball in the air, and we close on a slow motion shot of the baseball spinning in the air with all their names on it. Great, great closing. The end.
That was the best scene of the whole episode for sure, and it was quite short.
Yes.
But it was very good. Well, do you have over analysis?
Well, perhaps surprisingly I do.
All right.
Let's start off with the most important one. Couldn't Sisko get the prophets to help? They know what baseball is. He explained it to them.
Yes, but he also told them that the joy of it was not knowing the outcome. So,
true.
Probably not. But since the prophets are like his parents, he could go to them and say, this guy is bullying me.
Oh, yeah. We have removed him from existence.
No, that would be funny.
There is actually a funny thing here with Sisko and the sort of rivalry between this guy and how he's being a jerk. Because Sisko's got like a couple of huge things, such as asking Solok, so how many races beyond time are you on a personal level with? How many races have you saved? Oh, how many fleets of the Dominion ship have you been able to destroy by calling on your friends?
Yeah. He could be petty.
Yeah. It's almost like if this guy is going to be petty, Sisko has so much more ammunition.
I feel like that's more Sisko's ammunition.
Yeah.
Of you need to keep lowering yourself to this sort of petty behavior, which I don't do. So I'm sorry that my existence offends you. You know what I mean? Because you can't win.
I get what you mean.
You can't win the game of strength or of skill or whatever. So instead, win the game of wit, because you can certainly do that.
Yeah. Did this guy lead an entire armada against Jem'Hadar and Cardassian forces to free Deep Space Nine? The answer is no.
Probably not. Yeah, but he was very clearly trying to say that, oh, you're out here away from the war.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he wasn't even respecting that.
Right. My next point, and we've kind of talked about this, Vulcan supremacy. This is just thinly disguised racism.
Yeah, it's not even that thinly disguised.
Very true. Next point. So let's look at the team. We have Worf, a trained warrior, an expert in hand-eye coordination, and he can't hit the ball.
Yeah, not buying it.
We have Bashir, who we know was specifically genetically enhanced to have higher hand-eye coordination. Remember, he can still play darts with Miles, where he's standing virtually on the other side of the bar.
Yeah.
These two should be major league player quality.
Well, I do think Bashir, for sure, should have been very good at this game. And it would have been actually much better if what they had done is every time he came up to bat, they walked him.
Wow. Yes. That's a really good
now
point.
You've got a real baseball link.
Yep.
Where we know you've got one good player, but you can't win with that one good player because we're just going to walk him and the guy behind him is going to strike out.
And the other person I would bring up at this point is Kira. We know Kira must have significant strength. She can beat up Cardassians that are twice the size of her. So she has that Bajoran strength. So all you'd have to do is get her to be able to put that bat on a ball and it would be out of there.
It's not, baseball is not a game of strength, though. So it really takes practice. And which is why I'm saying, why were they sitting around talking about the infield fly rule? They should have been out there teaching her how to hit. Because you can learn. We all learn.
Right. Well, and plus her ability to throw as well.
I just feel like Julian should have been the one who picked it up the quickest. But the rest of them certainly seemed like they were athletic enough to be able to learn, but probably not in 2 weeks or whatever the time frame was.
And there was still a war going on, which I assume might have taken up some of their time.
Also, Julian was a tennis player.
Yes.
So he should have been able to hit a ball.
That's true. He's had some experience in swinging a bat and hitting a ball coming towards him, even if it was a little different.
Yes. Yeah, but still, it's similar.
And I think my final point is, why wouldn't people still be playing baseball? We talked about this a long time ago.
Yeah, there's no reason. Yeah,
if you remove the money aspect, it's still a competitive sport. Think of all the people who could play the game professionally if it wasn't about the money. If they could devote their lives to playing a sport and getting really good at any sport.
Yeah.
If you didn't need to earn an income because you spend 10 years or however many years trying to get really good at it, you would still have competitive sports. You potentially have even more.
Yeah, I do feel like sports would be even bigger because more people would be able to play it. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's a topic we haven't talked about for a long time, but I think the London Royals would still be playing. And I think that wraps up my overanalysis. Over to you.
Well, I have a bunch of stuff in my overanalysis section, but I think we might have talked about it all. There were only 3 humans on the team. So congratulations, you beat a team that had only 3 humans on it.
Yes, but they were all emotional people.
Yeah.
They were all limited by their emotions.
I really felt that realistically, this probably should have been a B story mixed in with another story that's going on. Because ultimately, what really happened in this episode? What did we really learn? Did we really advance the story? No. I mean, it was a bit of a filler episode. It was entertaining and cute, but really kind of a filler. And you could have squeezed this in as a B story.
Yeah, you probably could have, yeah.
Oh, here's one we didn't talk about. Didn't Esri say in the previous episode she was left-handed? Yeah, yes. She was not left-handed in this episode.
Ah, okay. I've got to come back for that.
Mm-hmm.
She's fighting with her memories of experiences of different people and different handedness.
Yeah, okay.
Like she was saying about with the gymnast. She was trying to do these maneuvers or exercises or whatever, like when she was standing on her head and her body wasn't doing them, but she could remember how to do them.
Yes, but the natural right-handedness and left-handedness is a very big part of sport. I would think that your natural tendency is what you would lean to, not a memory that you had of being right-handed.
And I'm thinking that that's how much the memories are interfering with her life.
Okay, I think that's an excuse. I don't think that's realistic. I don't think that was really written into it. And I think this is the risk of having a character say that they're left-handed when they're not, when the actor is not.
Yeah.
I think that was a risk.
Ah, so you're saying that I'm just trying to paper over the cracks.
I'm afraid so.
It's my headcanon. I'm going with it.
Well, we already talked about the actor who plays Rom being the person with the most baseball experience.
Yeah.
It did seem like Aaron Eisenberg, who's Nog, Michael Dorn, and Shrek Lofton, that they'd at least played. It did look like they They knew how to hold the bat.
Yeah.
They knew how to throw the ball, how to catch the ball. So it did at least look like that, but I'm not sure anybody else looked like they'd done it before. There's probably a reason that they didn't show Julian, or that they didn't make Julian be a bit of a ringer. He must have not been very good at it, right? The actor must not have been very good at baseball. They barely showed him in the game.
Oh, that's probably a good reason.
My last 2 points are really high-minded. Like, I wrote down that this episode really sealed the deal for me on why high-waisted pants went out of favor. The dudes in their high-waisted pants was not a great look. Kira can pull it off, but the rest of them didn't seem able to. And then the last thing I wrote down is Vulcans are jerks. When Atiba says the prophets are jerks, you guys, this is me saying Vulcans are jerks, you guys.
They can be, yes. Well, they can do that thing, I think, where, and Tuvok, I know, was guilty of this, where they'll hide their emotions behind logic. So they'll still be petty or condescending or disrespectful, but they'll pretend that they're being completely logical without emotion.
Well, when they're like this and they have to put it on display all the time and they have to talk about it and they have to show their superiority all the time, that's what makes them jerks. When they're just trying to, I guess, be a valuable member of the team or contribute to the team or use their skills when they're needed, I have no problem whatsoever with that. But it's this where you're gloating. I mean, that's super annoying.
That's emotional.
But those are really all the things that I had in overanalysis. So I'll go to women in the future. And I don't have a lot to say about women in the future. The women weren't treated differently because they're women. They were just part of the team, just part of this episode. And Cassidy was one of the best players. So, I mean, great. That was really good. I mean, there's nothing negative, I guess, to say there about women in the future. Oh, and I completely forgot, in fact, when I was saying some of the actors looked like they played before. Obviously, Penny Johnson, who played Cassidy, had played before. She had skills. You got to have skills to play third. So let's go to rating. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral. What is your rating?
Okay, my rating for this episode. Let's give some background. You introduced me to baseball. I'd never really known what baseball was. By this point, I'd been to some great baseball games, really enjoyed going to see baseball live in a park. It's such a great experience. And I really got an appreciation from baseball because of how much you enjoyed it as well. So I had somebody who could explain what was going on, who really enjoyed the game. So this episode for me really appealed. I really enjoyed it. And it also reminded me of those Looney Tunes cartoons, like Bugs Bunny playing baseball. It's very funny. It's, if you like, it's taking all kind of the funny things that can be in baseball and the sort of the good-natured aspect of a team sport and making an episode out of it. So I give this an absolute thumbs up. It's a fun episode. It's a goofy episode. It plays into something that Sisko is very passionate about. And also, I think the way Sisko behaves in this, I think, is great. Because he gets so wrapped up in himself and this rivalry that he sort of loses sight of the ball. And at the end, where they finally get a hit and the mood lifts and Sisko lifts and realizes that he's being a jerk and finds his way back and even ends up apologizing to Rom. I really enjoyed the episode. Absolute thumbs up. Would watch it again. Definitely a win.
And I remember the first baseball game that I took you to was in Minnesota. It was at the Metrodome. And we taught you the song to sing at the seventh inning, which then made you think that Cracker Jack was an important part of baseball. And you tried it and went, this is disgusting.
Yes. It was very much like Esri trying Ractagino.
Oh, it was a little bit like that. You just thought, oh, this must be a part of baseball. And of course, nobody else was having Cracker Jacks. So
I did love the peanuts, though.
Yeah, you have to pull the peanuts out. Yeah. The peanuts are one of the best parts of going to a baseball game. That and hot dogs. Well, I'll give it a thumbs up. I enjoyed it for sure. I mean, it was pointless but entertaining. It was a bit of a silly episode. I guess we got to see a little bit more about how the Vulcans, or how some of the Vulcans can be so annoying and have that superior attitude. But we also saw everybody pull together. We saw them laughing. It must have been really fun to film and, to get out of the sets and film outside, which they got to do. And it looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up season 7, episode 4, is it? Yeah, episode 4. come back next week for episode 5. In the meantime, if you'd like to send us your own overanalysis of this or any episode, or if you just want to say something nice, you can email us at ReBingeIT@gmail.com or tweet us at ReBingeIT. We're also on Instagram and YouTube at ReBingeIT. And if you're interested in joining the Star Trek Facebook group, it is facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM podcasts.
I feel we should play out this episode with Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
Take me out to the ball game. We'll probably get sued. There's probably copyright on it. In baseball, they'll come after you. Still think that's your favorite part of going to baseball.
I do enjoy it,
You get to sing that song.
Well, thank you for joining us on the Rebinge Deep Space Nine podcast.
That's it for me.
And that's it from me.